Hey everybody, Mac here, and we are going to talk about factoring with leading coefficients. A leading coefficient means that there's a number in front of these x squares that we're going to have to deal with, okay? So they're a little bit nastier, but that's okay. We can do them. I already did a version A, because as you can tell right here, this is version B, and I did a video where I talked about them. So if you haven't found those, you can go to maxtutorials.com, where I have lots of things about algebra that can help you out. And they're all organized there better, so if you just ran on this on YouTube, go back to the website and find them. I also love it when you guys like and subscribe these and when you give me comments or ask questions, so please always do that. Okay, well, let's talk about version B here, okay? So, want to take a look at these. First thing, it's okay to evaluate the signs just like what we did before, and I did my whole third term positive thing. If you don't know what that means, go back and watch those at Max Tutorials, okay? Third term is positive, so I know my signs are going to be the same, and I'm going to take the same with the middle number, so I know these are going to be plus plus. The 2 can only break down to a 2 and a 1, so I'm going to write a 2x and an x to start. That's done. I'm not going to fix any of that. But now when I look at this 4, it could be 4 and 1, or it can switch around the 1 and 4, or it can be 2 and 2. And of course, we don't need to flip those around. And what I want is I want my outies plus my innies to add to 9. Well, the first thing I noticed before doing this is I need to make sure I'm going to get an odd number in here somewhere, right? And so as I look at my 1 and my 4, I'm just kind of doing some of these in my head, and I see that if I put a 4 there and a 1 there, let's try it. Outies, what's 2x times 4? 8x. Innies, what's 1 times x? 1x. What's 8x plus 1x? 9x. Boom, I'm done. Okay? So yeah, I saw that. You may say, how did you see that? Because I've done them a lot. You're going to do a lot. And once you finish this, you're going to do it too. This one will be a nice and easy one, okay? Because 3 is a prime number. So this is going to be 3x and x. I don't even need to think about it. But this is either going to be 3 and a 1 or a 1 and a 3. I don't know yet. But let's look at the signs first. Third term is positive. So my signs are going to be the same. I look at the middle number and see it's a negative, so it's going to be a minus minus. I also know that my numbers have to add up to 10, okay? So I need to make sure that none of my factors are bigger than 10, or else they won't add up to 10, okay? Now, as I look at my 1 and 3, I go, you know what? If I put a 3 right there and a 1 right there, my outies are going to become a negative 9. My innies are going to become a negative 1, and they do add to 10. Love it. This right here is my answer. Cool. Let's go on to number 3. This one's a nasty one. Honestly, if I saw this, I would probably solve by something called quadratic equation, which we're going to learn later on in the next section. But that's okay, because we have lots of choice. Look at all the choices here. These are all the choices we can make. So really, I have 4 to go with 6 and 1, so I have 8 choices here to make. So we can trial and error 8 times or just solve it by quadratic equation. But you don't know that yet. So I don't know. You want to try the 6 and 1? Sure. Let's go 6x and x. I'm not going to need to flip this and try 1x and 6x because I'm going to flip these around to try. Now, my goal is to get, well, let's just talk about it. Third term is negative. My signs are going to be different, but don't write them in yet. And I also know they're not going to add to middle, they're going to subtract to the middle. So that means that one of my numbers has to be bigger than 11, okay? So if I can't get higher than 11, it ain't going to work. And as I look at my 5s and 2s, I can get to 11. Well, no, actually, I can put a 5 there and make it 30, couldn't I? Well, I'm just looking at some things. If I put a 10 there, my outies will be 60. Well, that's quite a number to get to 11. It's probably not going to do it. Maybe a 1 and a 10. Well, if I go 1 and 10, that's going to give me a 6 and a 10. Well, that's not going to subtract to 11, so let's not do that. Okay, let's try something else. Sorry, my crossing out works if it... Okay, so I don't like my 10s and 1s. Those don't seem to work. My 5s and 2s, if I put a 5 there, I'm going to get 30 on my outies. I'm not even going to mess with that. Maybe a 2 there and a 5 there. Who knows? Let's just try it. Here I'm going to get a 12, and here I'm going to get a 5. That's not going to subtract to 11. You know what I'm finding out? That's 6 and 1. It's just not working out for me. We're not. It's just, well, I'm not feeling it. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna take that 6 and 1. I'm gonna turn it into a 3 and a 2. All right. Now I just feel better about these 5s and 2s. I can't tell you why. So let me go a 5 and a 2 here. 3 and 2 will give me a 15. 2 and 2 will give me a 4. Will they subtract to 11? They sure will. Okay. But to get to a positive 11, the 15 has to be positive and the 4 has to be negative. So 3 times what kind of a 5 will give me a positive 15? A positive 5. What kind of a 2 times 2 will give me a negative 4? A negative 2. And that, my friends, is the answer. Okay, let's go to number 4. Hey, this one's nice. 2 prime numbers. Man, when they give you 2 prime numbers, you're living well. This is going to be 2x and x, and there's nothing you can do about it. This is either going to be a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2. But here's what you need to know. Third term is positive. Signs are the same. You're going to take the sign of the middle, which is going to be a negative and a negative. And I know that they are going to add to a negative 5, okay? So let's put our 2 and 1 in here. Let's go 2 and 1. If I go outies, my outies are a negative 2 and my innies are a negative 2. Well, that's not going to get me to 5. So instead of 2 and 1, what if I try 1 and 2? Well, what's my outies now? Now my outies is a negative 4 and my innies is a negative 1. That gives me a negative 5. Hip, hip, hooray. I love it. I've got my answer. All right, let's go on to number 5. Okay, prime numbers. We love prime numbers. It takes all of our choices away. So this is going to be 5x and x, and it ain't going to change. Okay, and this is going to be 2 and 1 or a 1 and 2. We just got to figure it out. Well, let's think about it. I have a negative number, so my signs are going to be different. Don't write them yet. But my outies and innies have to subtract to become a positive 9. If you're going to subtract a 9, that means one of your numbers has to be bigger than 9, right? Well, 5 times 2, that'll give me a 10. That's bigger than 9. So let's try that. My outies here will give me a 10. My innies will give me a 1. Will that subtract a 9? It sure will, but my 10 has to be positive and my 1 has to be negative. Okay, so let's work on this right now. 5 times what flavor of 2 will give me a positive 10? It's a plus 2. What flavor of 1 times x is a negative 1? It's a minus. Yay, I found my answer. All right, so I just used a little bit of logic to take some of my choices away. Now here we're going to have quite a few choices. Well, not quite a few, but we're going to have 6 and 1 or a 3 and a 2. Here is just going to be a 2 and a 1 or a 1 and a 2. Okay? All right, well, let's try it. And also, notice that the third term is negative. Okay, so they're going to subtract to a 1. Not that big of a deal. That just means something has to be bigger than 1, which we're going to get. But we are going to look for consecutive numbers. So my outies and innies should be like a 5 and a 6, a 12 and a 13. It's those kind of numbers that will give us a 1. What do you guys want to start with? You want to start with 3s and 2s or 6s and 1s? So let's start with our 3s and 2s. Because I see 3s and 2s and 1s and 2s, that just feels good to me. So I'm going to go my 2s and 1s. If I put a 2 here and a 1 there, my outies are going to give me a 6 and my innies are going to give me a 1. That's not going to subtract to a 1. Let's try it the other way. Let's try a 2 here and a 1 there. That'll give me a 3 and that'll give me a 4. Yay, consecutive numbers. That's what I wanted. That will subtract a 1. Remember, that's a 1. But it's got to be a negative 1. So he's going to be negative and he's going to be positive. 3 times what kind of a 1 is 3? Positive. What kind of a 2 times 2 is negative? Negative. We are done. All right, 4 more on this page and we're done. Okay, this one, little nasty, but not too bad. This is either going to be a 4 and a 1 or a 2 and a 2. Whenever I have those options, I start with a 2 and a 2 because it means that I don't have to flip around the third term. So this is going to be either a 3 and a 1 or a 1 and a 3. Now, I'm just going to write it. It doesn't matter which one I write because they're both going to be multiplied by a 2. That's going to be a 2, and that's going to be a 6. Well, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I forgot to talk about this. Third term positive, signs are the same. Take the sign of the middle, so they're both going to be plus, and the factors are going to add to 8. Okay, will the outies and innies add to 8 here? They sure will. I am done. Okay, here we go. Let's do this one. Prime numbers. We love prime numbers. We don't have a lot of choices. That's going to be a 5x and an x. And this is either going to be 1 and 2 or 2 and 1. Well, let's think first. Third term negative, signs are going to be different, and my outies and my innies need to subtract the 3. So I just need to be bigger than 3. Well, I'll be bigger than 3 either way. So let's go to 2 and 1. Let's just put a 1 there, 2 there. We're just making a guess. And so this is going to be a 5. That's going to be a 2. Will 5 and 2 subtract the 3? They sure will. And I need the 5 to be negative, and I need the 2 to be positive, okay? These are 5x and 2x. We know that. I just didn't write it because I wanted to have lessons so it's not confusing, but I just want you to know that I know. Okay, so here we go. A 5 times what kind of a 1 is a negative 5? It's a negative 1. What kind of a 2 times x is positive 2? A positive 2, and we're done. All right, last 2 on the page. Prime numbers, yay! Choices are taken away from us. 3x and x, that is done. It can't be anything but that. This is either going to be 1 and 5 or it's going to be 5 and 1. Now I'm trying to get to a 16. Third term positive, signs are the same. They're going to take the sign of the middle, so it's plus plus, and I just need to get the 16, and I see if I put a 5 there and a 1 there, look at my outies. I get a 15. My innies give me a 1. They add the 16. Hip, hip, hooray. And last one. Okay, I'm going to have to make some choices here. I have a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 2. So I'm going to do my parentheses. Now, I said that I always start with the 2 and 2. But I'm looking at this, and I see that I have to get to an 11. That's kind of a bigger number. So I'm sort of feeling that 4 and 1. I don't know that it's 4 and 1, but I'm feeling it. So let's give it a try. Okay, third term negative. They subtract to 11. So one of my numbers has to be bigger than 11. So if I'm going to use the 3 and 1, how am I going to get bigger than 11? I need my 3 to go out here because look at my outies. Now my outies are going to be a 12. My innies, this is going to be a 1. Okay, will 12 and 1 give me an 11? They sure will. But I need my 12 to be negative, and I need my 1 to be positive. 4 times what kind of 3 is negative? Negative. What kind of a 1 times x is 1? A positive. Boom, I am done. Yeah, these are nasty. They just are. Okay, and a lot of people really kind of struggle with these. Even though they're nasty, if you have a process, you can do it. And if you use a little bit of logic on whether you need to be bigger or smaller, or, if you're adding, you should be both numbers need to be smaller than the middle. Just using some of that logic will start to take away some of the choices, and you can find these a little bit quicker. All right, that was version B. So I have a version C. That's coming next. If you feel comfortable with these, move on to the next section. If you feel like you need some more work, I'll see you on version C. See you guys there.